This is really an honor to talk to you for a few minutes about our honors program. And I'm thrilled to be joined tonight by a number of my colleagues. Obviously, you've met Chief of Staff John Garelick, who's been integral in this program becoming what it is today, and oversees virtually everything we do in the Department of Law and Public Safety. Also joined by Executive Assistant Attorney General Shirley Emahalu, who oversees all of our civil portfolio, everything from our enforcement work to our representation of client agencies and a whole bunch in between, as well as our state Solicitor General, Jeremy Feigenbaum, and DAG from our Office of Public Integrity and Accountability, until Wednesday, a current honors program fellow. She will then transition to be a full-time, not that she wasn't full-time before, a permanent member of Office of Public Integrity and Accountability after the completion of her program, Sam Toma. So I thank you all for being here. As John mentioned, I'm a huge believer in this program, and I think, frankly, the success of it now going into its fourth class year speaks for itself. It's a program that, frankly, I wish existed when I was graduating law school. And whether you're a 3L, certainly if you're an administrator or a career services professional, we hope your students will be interested. But if you're a 3L, a current clerk who's someone completing a fellowship, or a LLM or graduate student, this is really a tremendous program for you to take advantage of, to get your foot in the door, gain incredible experience on some of the most important matters that you could possibly work on, and do it in a way that really helps further the public interest. I think this is the best place you could possibly start your career. And frankly, I may be biased, but I think the Department of Law and Public Safety in New Jersey is the best office in the country to be a practicing attorney. There's no Attorney General's office in the country that has the breadth of authority and responsibility that we have here, whether that's our extensive and frankly unique criminal authority, both in terms of our ability to prosecute cases ourselves, supersede or supervise cases at the county or local level, as well as to implement policies that bind the behavior of 38,000 sworn law enforcement officers throughout the state. On the civil side, we have some of the broadest enforcement authority in the country, whether that's our consumer laws, which we're using in new and novel ways to hold accountable opioid manufacturers and social media companies who are targeting our youth gun manufacturers and distributors for their marketing practices, to our civil rights laws, which include one of the strongest laws against discrimination in the country and the first of its kind law to protect our residents from being discriminated against on the basis of criminal backgrounds in the housing process, in the housing application process, to our environmental laws, where we protect our environment and hold accountable polluters, to the work we do to further policies strengthening protections for victims of sexual violence and domestic violence, to youth justice, to the first of its kind in the nation, an office dedicated to holding accountable gun manufacturers and members of the gun industry who are harming our residents. I could go on. And this is the type of work that we look to honors program fellows to participate in and to contribute to. And I think Sam can speak to this personally, but I work, and senior members of my team who are on this call work regularly with honors fellows. And our honors program participants have contributed to cases before the United States Supreme Court, leading public corruption matters, implementing and drafting statewide policy initiatives that affect millions of people, regulatory or enforcement actions that protect our residents, and I could go on. So it's I think, a unique and really tremendous opportunity to serve the public and to do it in a place that is, I believe, doing cutting edge work. I've had the ability to work in my career, which has been virtually entirely in the public sector, at the state, local, and federal levels of government. And I say with great conviction that working at the state level is truly my favorite and I think most impactful place to work. it's big enough when we take an action or when we lead a litigation or change a policy, we're affecting millions of lives. And sometimes we're affecting lives in every part of the country. But it's also local enough that we often know the people that we're helping, and we know the communities, and we've been there. In some cases, we live there. And so it's really, I think, a great blend of impact with mixed with a sense of community and a sense of public purpose. And so I really encourage you all to consider joining this program. It's a 2-year program. It's a 2-year commitment. You can do 2 rotations, and we have 12 different policy areas, which we'll go over, or issue areas. You can choose to do 1 your first year and a second the second year. Some people will stay on and do both years in the same section, but you do have the ability to rotate. And then if you're like Sam and many of our other honors program fellows, they've stayed on and continued to have careers in the Department of Law and Public Safety doing the impactful work that they've been doing. So I can tell you, as I said, as somebody who has spent the vast majority of my career in public service, there's really no greater reward than serving the public. And I think there's also no better way at the start of your career to get this type of experience, litigating cases, dealing with opposing counsel, drafting pleadings and briefings, negotiating, creating statewide policies, conducting investigations. There's really no better place to do that than in this department. And you get a great blend of experience at a very early part of your career that's hard to match, combined with a sense that you're really doing some important work and work that profoundly affects people's lives. So I really do urge you to take what is a challenging course, but also a really important and impactful one. The applications are open now. They're due Sunday, October 9th. We'll go over the full timeline in greater detail later on in this call. But you can also visit our website at njoag.gov/careers/AG-honors-program. We'll put that up for you and get that around. And you can email us at honors.program@njoag.gov. So again, I thank you all for your interest. I really do hope you consider applying. And I hope, frankly, that we have the chance to work together. And I look forward to the questions. I'll stay on. And with that, I will turn it over to Shirley Emahalu, Executive Assistant Attorney General.
Thank you, General. Good evening, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you, at least virtually this evening. I will tell you the same attributes that shine through in the honors program are the same attributes that drew me to join the state AG's office just this past May. Just by way of background, I 20 years out of law school, maybe 20 slightly plus, revealing my age. And my career has spanned private practice to the U.S. Attorney's Office, where I was an AUSA for 9 years, handling mostly complex financial fraud cases, to now the state AG's office. And I will echo what General Platkin says and has said. The breadth of work that we do here and the importance of that work cannot be overstated. We touch the lives of New Jerseyans in pretty much everything that we do. And on the civil side, there is so much important cutting edge work that we are doing and that you would have the opportunity to do yourself as an honors program fellow. The General touched on some of the subject areas. I will just emphasize some of them just to give you a sense of the variety and the importance of the work. From the civil rights portfolio, the Division on Civil Rights enforces, among other laws, the law against discrimination, which perhaps is the most robust anti-discrimination law on the books in the nation. And as the General said, also enforces the newly enacted Fair Chance in Housing Act And it's through the vision that we ensure justice for New Jerseyans on a daily basis. And so the opportunity to do that type of work is really, the gravity of it is astounding, but you just feel so mission focused when you come into work. Another very timely cutting edge area that we offer through the honors program is a reproductive health rights portfolio. In the wake of the Dobbs decision enforcing the statutorily protected right to abortion care in New Jersey is ever more important. And you would have the opportunity to work on those matters, ensuring that New Jerseyans and those who come to New Jersey seeking abortion care are able to exercise their rights under New Jersey law. We have a firearms civil enforcement and accountability subject area in the honors program, where you'd be working with the newly founded SAFE office. You will find that there are abundance of acronyms. SAFE is the newest of those, I would say. I'm still learning all of them, but the work of SAFE is incredible. We're looking forward to standing up the office under the leadership of newly announced director and deputy director who will bring incredible experience both investigating and litigating complex matters. And the task is to hold gun manufacturers and producers, distributors accountable for violations of the law, misrepresentations, and also to enforce our newly enacted public nuisance law specific to firearms. Our social media accountability and data privacy / cybersecurity subject matter area. We've been a longstanding national leader in holding social media companies such as Meta, TikTok, and others accountable for their failures in the enforcement of their content moderation policies. Right now, leading a multi-state investigation into the effects, the addictive effects of social media on young people. I mean, really, again, just really cutting edge areas of the law. Environmental justice portfolio, where you have the opportunity to bring enforcement actions against polluters who are disproportionately impacting vulnerable communities, and ensure that justice comes to those communities in the form of remediation, damages, and the like. Workers' rights and labor enforcement portfolio. Again, we are cutting edge, especially in worker misclassification cases, where workers, instead of being afforded the full rights that they would be as properly classified workers, are misclassified as independent contractors and other classifications that deprive them of their full labor rights. And so, it's these areas where you will have the opportunity to work and do substantive work. I mean, like the general said, there's no busy work. You'll be coming in once you pass the bar as a full-fledged DAG, and you will be able to cut your teeth working on important matters, complex matters, getting real substantive experience. Like the general, I started my career after clerking in private practice. And I will tell you, in those first few years, especially in billable matters, outside of pro bono contacts, you're really not necessarily getting the types of stand-up courtroom experience, meaty brief writing experience that you would get through the honors program. And so, I really commend you all for showing interest in the program and encourage you to apply. Lastly, I'll just touch on the training program that's offered to new honors program fellows when they start. There is a boot camp, if you will, at the start. It is the customary Division of Law 3-day training program for all new deputies that covers a variety of areas from client services, ethics, appellate practice, sort of election duty 101, the brass tacks of representing state agencies, use of the document management system, basically practical information that you'll need to do your daily job, in addition to running through substantive areas such as e-discovery, the OPRA requirements, state and ethical standards, professional practice, civility. In addition, after that 3-day boot camp, if you will, there are monthly or bi-monthly brown bag lunches where you'll get to meet with various members of the Department of Law and Public Safety to hear about their daily work, to learn from their practice pointers, to see how they forge their career paths. And so, we really help to set you up to succeed, as we know you will as an honors program fellow. And, Sam will attest to the tremendous amount of training and experience that you get through the job. But before we get to Sam, I want to introduce you to our brilliant Solicitor General Jeremy Feigenbaum, who will talk to you about the Solicitor Fellow program.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shirley. And thank you to everyone for being here with us. It's hard to top Shirley's overview on all of the different things you get to do in an honors program. So I want to make basically 2 points. One, about why I think this is an incredible office to work in, and 2, a little bit about the Solicitor General Fellowship in particular. But let me talk about the global point to everyone. Right now, you are either in a fellowship or in law school or in a clerkship, and you're trying to figure out what comes next. And however you answer that, you have to figure out how to decide what you want to come next. And there's a lot of different metrics you can use to try to figure that out. You can optimize for money, for work-life balance, for opportunities, for location. There's all sorts of criteria that are going to go into your decision. And one of the things not to forget about in that package, because they're all important, but is, what do I actually get to do in my first year as an attorney, or first year post clerking, or first year post another fellowship? And the answer is you want to be able to look back and say that in those 2 years, the first 2 years out of law school, you achieved something. Not that you sat in a windowless room doing doc review and other sorts of discovery tasks. Not that you were like the 11th person on a case stacked 12 layers above you trying to figure out what your role is. You want to know you made a difference, that you had a real contribution right out the gate in your career. And the thing that I think sets the honors program really apart is that that's critical to the honors program. Not only have we chosen some of the most important areas in our office to put honors program attorneys, whether that's some of our constitutional appellate work, whether that's the gun safety work we do, whether that's civil rights, environmental justice, corruption, you name it. I don't mean to leave any of them out, but we've only targeted some of the most important areas that we care about as an office. And that's both because they're really important, they matter a lot to us, and I suspect they matter a lot to a lot of you, but also because these are areas where we have work and we have space for people to do meaningful, substantive things. Do you want to argue in court? Do you want to be involved in setting the strategy for a case from its very initial beginnings? Do you want to get involved in the actual oversight of the investigation? Not just one of a bunch of people filing the complaint, but figuring out how to build a case from its inception. And not just how to build some individual cases, which is important, but how to build impact cases, how to think about a prosecution of some of the most important corrupt officials operating in New Jersey, how to build civil litigation against repeat violators at the national scale for civil rights or consumer protection violations, to think about how to think big and use your own tools and your brain and your intellect and your talents and the skills you've been honing to deploy them and actually be a core part of the team on whatever you do. That's the entire point of the honors program. That's why the honors program exists. It exists to take people who want to do what I've just described and do those on issues they presumably care about, because we've chosen, frankly, some of the sexiest issues that we do as a department to try to make them the focus of the honors program. It's not exactly an accident. We want to pair some of the people we're most excited about with some of the work that we care the most about. So that's the honors program. I became our Solicitor General 2 years ago, but for 2 years before that, I was also counsel to the Attorney General. And so I did a lot of that affirmative work that Shirley was talking about. I did work on environment. I did work on gun safety. I did work on immigration. There is so much to do in those spaces and so much important work to do in those spaces. And a state like New Jersey can continue to be cutting edge, like we've been for the past 4 years, on pushing the envelope, whether it's legislative policy, regulatory, litigation, criminal prosecutions, any of those categories. We've been sort of leading the way among states, and we want to continue doing that. And we need brilliant people who are thinking really creatively and early in their careers to help us do that. Okay. The second thing I want to say briefly is, what's the role of the Solicitor General Fellow? And I'll let Sam sort of be the proof of concept for the overall things I said about the honors program. And we put a lot of pressure on Sam. So if she tells you this is like a terrible program and never be a part of it, you can discount everything that I've said. On the Solicitor General Fellow, each year I hire one fellow. So the way it's structured, I've got a second-year fellow each year and a first-year fellow each year, because it's a 2-year fellowship. And the fellow is a core part of my office, which is the Office of the Solicitor General. And the core work that we do is some federal, some state, constitutional, and otherwise appellate litigation at every level of government. So we end up doing cases in SCOTUS. Right now, we're in a really fun case in SCOTUS where New York sued New Jersey over an agreement that the two states reached in 1953 that New Jersey decided no longer applies and should no longer govern, and pulled out of the agreement. And New York went and sued us in SCOTUS. And so I have not that big a team that's working on SCOTUS litigation against New York. It's incredibly fun. We filed a brief a month ago. We'll file a reply brief in November. We'll argue in front of SCOTUS, probably in the winter or spring. And that team, I don't know, it's got to be 7 or 8 people, 2 honors program folks, my Solicitor General Fellow, and then an honors program attorney who works within one of the divisions I partnered with on this case. That SG Fellow has been a core member of the team, could not have done the SCOTUS case without them. Second, just to give another example of the kind of work we do, Second Amendment litigation at every level. That was true before Bruin, that was true after Bruin. It's really interesting, it's really hard, and figuring out how to represent a state like New Jersey in the federal courts of today is a really exciting, cutting edge, and a hard challenge to think about. And we care deeply about the work of the SG Fellow, and we have cases that are just me and the SG Fellow. We've got cases that are 3 or 4 of us, including the SG Fellow. Not just having the SG Fellow write the first draft, although that's really important. It's an important thing to start picking up early in one's legal career, but also to set the strategy, also to edit some of the work coming in from the divisions, also to be just a core member of the team. And that's the idea of the fellowship, to have a chance to argue cases, and most importantly, to be a core part of the strategy and structure and organization and brief writing of SCOTUS, Second Amendment, constitutional, New Jersey Supreme Court, et cetera, cases for our docket. So that's what I've got. I love my job. I love the honors program. I love the SG Fellow. I'll answer whatever questions you have, but I'll let Sam be sort of proof of concept and tell you what it's actually like to be part of the program.
Thank you so much. So yes, my name is Samantha Toma. I am a graduate of the University of Virginia School of Law in 2020. And I just want to say first off that I'm really happy to be here with everybody and glad that you all are here. I remember very vividly still, the job search process and how stressful it is, and you really want to find the right fit for you. So when I found out about the honors program in the AG's office here in New Jersey, I was really excited. I think it has turned out to be everything I hoped it was. So I applied for the opportunity to work in the Office of Public Integrity and Accountability. And so that's what I'll be able to speak mostly about tonight. And I chose in my 2 years not to do a rotation, mostly because number one, I knew I wanted to practice criminal law. And secondly, because of the really thorough breadth of work I've been able to do within OPIA. So in my last 2 years here, I've gotten to work on corruption matters, so political corruption. And that really involves a lot of understanding the investigative process, working very closely with our state police and OPIA detectives to build, the case of a criminal prosecution, and then bring those cases through charging, as well as into grand jury indictment, and then eventually to trial. In addition to getting to work on corruption cases, I've also had the opportunity to work on one of our conviction review cases, which is something that OPIA does, as well as I'm a member of the team that investigates deadly use of force by police officers, known as our shooting response team. And so I get to participate as a member on call for those, and then follow up in those investigations when they occur. So in my 2 years, I have charged several cases. Just this summer, I've charged several cases. I indicted my first case last week or in the last 2 weeks. I've indicted other cases, but that was the first one I've gotten to do as the lead attorney. And several of my cases that I've worked on in my capacity on the corruption side are headed for trials, which ultimately is, as someone who aspires to be or is a criminal prosecutor, I really am excited to try some cases. I, have described this opportunity kind of as a unicorn, the opportunity to work as such a young attorney or, an experienced attorney on so many amazing cases, really important cases, complex criminal matters with really amazing experienced attorneys in our office has just been awesome. And it is why I've taken the opportunity to stay. So I will graduate from the honors program this week, I suppose. And I think it really is a testament to the program that I don't expect almost anything to change in my day-to-day. I've been treated as like a full-fledged member of OPIA as a DAG since I was barred and sworn in. And so, yeah, I'm just, I've been thrilled with the experience and this opportunity and would be happy to answer questions, any questions I can, knowing that I really have spent most of my time in OPIA. So I think I will kick it back to John.
All right, thank you so much, Sam, and thanks to Jeremy and to Shirley and to the EG, all of whom are still on and can be available to answer some questions. Before we get to any questions that folks have, I do want to go through some of the boring but important logistical information for folks who may have questions about what the process looks like. So congrats first of all on being here. Thanks for joining the webinar. So you're probably a step ahead of others who may be looking only at information on our website. But that website, as the AG mentioned before, and as is in the chat box right now, that is our landing page for all things honors program. So certainly you can navigate there to digest the information at your convenience about the subject matter areas that you heard from Shirley and from Sam and from Jeremy and the AG. We have detailed descriptions on the website of each of those subject matter areas, as well as where those offices are located, because although New Jersey is not a very large state, we do have a number of offices where the honors program members may work. Some folks work in Trenton, the state's capital. Others work in Newark in northern New Jersey, and there are some satellite offices scattered about as well. Sam works in one of them in that northern New Jersey area. So what is important to know in terms of the timeline? Application period opened on August 24th. As you heard from the AG, the deadline to submit applications is Sunday, October 9th. So please get your applications in by then. The applications are completely online, although if you need assistance with completing the application or don't have access to complete the application online, you can feel free to email us and we will be happy to assist. Once the applications are in, you'll be notified applicants will be notified in late October, early November if they're selected for interviews. We run interviews from roughly November to December, and we try to wrap things up and have offers extended for the program either late December or early January 2023. I think the kind of latest that we would want any offers to go out is Martin Luther King Day in January, but hopefully before then. The start date for employment is just around a year from now, September 2023, which gives folks who are coming off of clerkships or fellowships time to wrap them up, and folks who have graduated will be set to graduate in May 2023, time to take the bar exam. For folks who are wondering if they're eligible for the program, if they're not yet admitted to the bar of New Jersey, you are able to come in as a law clerk, but we do require folks to either take and pass the New Jersey bar or waive into New Jersey if you're a member of another bar within 6 months of starting employment. And at that time, you'll join us as a Deputy Attorney General, and you'll have the ability to take part in all of the activities that you heard Sam outline and start indicting people, left and right. Eligibility for folks, third-year law students, students in the final year of other graduate programs like LLMs, clerks who will complete their clerkship by September 2023, and individuals in fellowship programs who will complete their fellowships by 2023. You heard about the subject matter areas, and I'll rattle them off real quick, but then I'll ask that you, navigate to the website to learn more about them. They are civil rights, reproductive health rights, firearms civil enforcement and accountability, conviction review and innocence claims, social media accountability and data privacy cybersecurity, environmental justice, public integrity and police licensing, workers' rights and labor enforcement, the Solicitor Fellow, as you heard from our Solicitor General, Jeremy Feigenbaum, violence intervention and victim advocacy, youth justice, and sexual and domestic violence policy, prevention, and enforcement. When folks apply to the program, there'll be on the online application, there's a drop-down list with all of those subject matter areas. You can apply to as few or as many of them as you wish. We do ask you to rank your choices, and generally speaking, the interviews are conducted in a way reflective of those ranked choices. So please think carefully about what you are most interested in doing, and you should also tailor your application materials to those interests. If you're applying for, let's say, the environmental justice subject matter area as your top choice, you should show us why that is, something you are interested in and perhaps have experience in as well. Part of the application materials require you, in addition to sending in the online application, to provide us with references. You do not need to provide letters of recommendation, although that is optional. You'll need to provide a writing sample and a statement of interest. And that statement of interest is in some ways like a cover letter, where we want to hear about why you're interested in public service and why you're interested in our office and working for AG Plotkin, and in particular, why you're interested in any of the particular subject matter areas that you have identified as part of your application. And that is a quick snapshot of the kind of nuts and bolts of applying for the honors program. We will, be happy to take any questions that the group has. We've reserved about 15 minutes to do that. All of you are on mute, so I would ask if you wouldn't mind using the raise hand function to ask the question, and then I can call on you and we can go one by one. All right. All right, we've got our first question coming in from, is it Rubre?
Arbery.
Arbery, sorry about that. Arbery, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon,
Please tell us where you're coming from, and if you have your question, and if it's directed at any particular person from our office.
Yeah, thanks. My name's Arbery Singleton. I'm coming from Passaic County. Right now I'm clerking this year, and I'm a prospective applicant, which is why I'm here. And I just want to say thanks for taking time out to give us this information. I just had a question for the staff who currently work there. How big is the Attorney General's office? As just a lifelong New Jersey resident, I'm wondering how many attorneys are there, and what are you all looking for in an ideal honors candidate? Thank you.
I can jump in.
Yeah, please.
And then so the Attorney General's office in New Jersey is huge. I say that in a good way. I mean, so much so that other AGs have joked about our battalions here in New Jersey, because we just have such great resources. The entire department is about 8,000, a little under 8,000 people, 7,700, 7,800, depending on how good I am at getting people through the door. But that about half of that is state police. And then a good chunk of it are non-attorneys as well. So in Division of Law, John, what are we now? Division of Law is the division that handles is where most of our lawyers work on the civil side. I think we have about 550. Is that
that's right on the money
right now? So it's the largest law firm in the state, but you have to remember those 550 attorneys are handling all of our affirmative cases on the civil side. They represent by law every state agency. So unlike in other states, the Department of Transportation doesn't have its own lawyers. The Department of Health doesn't have its own lawyers. The Department of Human Services and so on. They're all within the Division of Law, on top of a range of other things that Division of Law does. So I don't want you to hear a big number and think you're going to sort of be lost in the shuffle. There's much smaller teams that have broad responsibility. And that's on the civil side. On the criminal side, there are lawyers both within the Division of Criminal Justice, the Office of Public Integrity and Accountability. And then we have people in doing investigative roles, lawyers doing investigative roles in both the criminal and civil side. So, Sam's spoken about her experience in OPIA. Our Division on Civil Rights, Division of Consumer Affairs have a number of lawyers doing investigative roles, including the current director of the Division of Civil Rights, who will not be with us too much longer because she's going on the state Supreme Court as an incoming Associate Justice. So once her confirmation goes through next month. So, we have a large number of people, but when you boil it down, everybody, especially in a legal role, has pretty significant authority. And candidly, for those of you who are in other states, I assure you, because I spent a lot of time with AGs in other states, they're all jealous of the authority we have here. They all wish they had it. And I'm not really looking to give it up. So I thank the drafters of the 47 Constitution. They did a great job. They gave us a ton of power, and that means we get to use it. So I'll let anybody else on the team, if you want to jump in.
I would just note, and the general mentioned this a bit, that especially in the affirmative civil enforcement work, the teams are quite small. So you will get a lot of direct exposure to the chiefs of that section and any assistant section chief. So just to reiterate what the general said, you will not be like a faceless person. You will be immediately enfolded into the team and be a key and integral part of the team.
Sam, do you mind giving maybe just a quick snapshot of your experience jumping into OPIA as an honors program attorney?
Yeah, in terms of, the size of our team.
Yep.
I think OPIA has around 20 attorneys. That's what I would guess. We don't all work in the same office. And I would say that I work with the other DASG in combination. I think I've worked with everyone in OPIA, and then very closely, with the director of our office who reads everything that we produce, each of us. So I would say number one, feel very integrated into the team, as I mentioned. I feel like I am a DAG, even outside of the honors program within OPIA. And then I very much, I think that the work that I do is directly impacts every day, what our office produces. And that is something amazing, for someone who's 2 years out of law school to feel like her work is, so directly producing, fruits all the time.
So I can say directly about Sam's work. I've read charging memos that Sam has written. She mentioned, Sam, you work very closely with Tom, Director Eicher, right?
Yes.
So I think this is a good example. Sam is in OPIA. OPIA is run by Tom Eicher, who's the director. Tom is a long time, incredibly accomplished prosecutor in both the federal system and now the state system. He ran the criminal division at the U.S. Attorney's Office. He's had senior roles at the Department of Justice, and then came over and launched this. And so Sam's working very closely with him. I routinely read and am often briefed by honors program fellows. I read their work. Certainly a decision to charge or indict like Sam has made and has recommended goes all the way up to me, and I review it. And if I have questions, we engage. And Shirley and Jeremy, I know you have similar experiences in your work.
We have a question. Thanks, General. We have a question from Eve. You got the floor.
Thank you all so much for this opportunity to ask you questions directly. So my name is Eve Litvack. I'm currently sitting in Chatham, New Jersey, and I'm currently a 3L at Seton Hall in Newark, along with Don Irons here. Hey, Don. My question is to Sam. So you just described this incredible process of coming in at your 2 years out of law school. You've gotten to charge and indict, and you're looking at going into trials shortly. How, as was shared, there's a 3-day orientation period onboarding. How do you build up the skills and the confidence to get to where you are in only 2 years? What was your development like?
I would say it's probably true in all public service opportunities that you really learn by observing and doing, right away. As soon as I was sworn in, I was able to sit in on other grand jury presentations, for example, for indictment. And for the first year and a half, probably, I was coupled with an attorney who was more experienced than I to work closely with. And oftentimes, the first time we had a motion to dismiss on one of our cases, I was sitting with the 2 other attorneys on the case, and we were talking about how we would reply, and then the oral argument, and they both turned to me and they were like, you should do it, and that was sort of, I had hoped to watch the first time that I saw one, but they briefed me. We took a couple practice sessions. I did a thorough outline. They provided me with resources to help me do that. And we won, so that was great. So it is sometimes a little baptism by fire, I think, but again, I think that's probably true in the public sector in general. And the benefit of coming into an office like the AG's office and OPIA is that you are working with so many other attorneys who have so much experience, and therefore, you learn from them. And I just have found everyone to be very, very helpful, happy to assist and help each other out. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Mute for a second. We do also have an in-house training, an advocacy institute, which partners extensively with the National Association of Attorneys General Training Institute. So depending on what you're working on, we may have more specialized training throughout your tenure. And fortunately, I'm really glad we're back doing those trainings in many instances in person. We have a training facility on our 4th floor here in Trenton that we use, as well as virtual trainings.
Thanks, General. Kathleen, you're next up. You got the floor.
Thank you again so much for doing this. And I will say, I'm new to New Jersey. I came down to clerk in Essex County Criminal Court and hopefully to stay. And I'm very impressed with this AG's office from where I came from. So kudos to all of you. So my question is, maybe so for the people who decide to change areas from year to year versus stay with 2, do you see any advantages or disadvantages to that, from having the continuity of being with sort of one team versus the experience of exposure to different areas? Can you address that at all, please?
I'll let somebody else answer the question, but I got to know, what state were you coming from?
Maine, which is much, much smaller.
I just got back from AG's conference in Maine. I'm gonna give their AG some grief. It's a point for us. No, anyway, somebody else might want to answer this question. Sam? I don't know if you have thoughts from your classmates.
Sure. Yeah, when I was in my first year of the program, we had my colleague rotated into OPIA from, I believe he had been doing environmental.
That would be Dom, right?
Yes, Dom. Yeah. And he gave me the advice. Of course, I wanted to know why he rotated and stuff. And he said that he had been, it had been suggested to him that it is so unusual to be able to rotate within an AG's office like this, or really in any position, to see such different work. And he was really encouraged to do so. And I think he really loved that experience. I think he benefited from it and what he wanted to do. As I mentioned, I am pretty singularly focused on criminal work, and decided that, for me, I was just going to stick with OPIA and, building my relationships here, and just I couldn't have really imagined letting go of some of my cases for the length of time that I would have been rotating out and all of that. So for me, that was the right choice. But I think if you have multiple interests, and even in this call, when we were discussing the different areas of interest, I was thinking to myself, like, that would have been really interesting to work on something like that. So I think if you are interested in doing more than one, you certainly should. And that's sort of what makes this opportunity so unique and special, is the opportunity to do so. So that's my thought.
And although Dom is not on the call, Dom was part of our inaugural class of 2019. He's a local guy from Rutgers Camden Law School. He did a year in the environmental enforcement subject matter area, and as Sam mentioned, rotated to OPIA where he got to do some criminal work, which, to that point, hard to find an office anywhere else in the country where you can do civil work 1 year, criminal work the next year. And then when his 2-year commitment ended, he returned to his original placement doing civil environmental enforcement work. And he was able to kind of go back to his first choice. So that's one example, not the only one we have, but I think shows the breadth of work that you can get in the office. All right, Lily, you're up next.
Hi, thanks so much for your time this evening, everyone. My name is Lily Hecht. I am currently an Excelsior Fellow with the state of New York, with the Division of Human Rights, which is, I guess, the kind of equivalent for DCR, for the Division of Human Rights, to the Division on, New York's already corrupted me, on civil rights. But I'm a New Jerseyan originally, and actually I worked for DOL for the Division of Law as an intern, so that's where I got my start. And my question is for the Solicitor General. I was wondering basically what's the process through which your office determines your docket, your caseload from among the, is any of it mandatory? Is it all discretionary and like the hottest issues? So I was wondering how you determine your docket.
Yeah, it's a mix of things. It's a great question. It's one of the trickiest things we do. So both DOL and the Division of Criminal Justice. So DOL, for everyone, is Division of Law, our civil division. DCJ, Division of Criminal Justice, is one of our criminal divisions. OPIA is basically the other. And effectively, they both have appellate shops that do a ton of work and do a lot of really important work. So in Division of Law, people keep their own cases from the initiation of state trial court all the way to whatever level it goes. What happens at the SG's office is we really partner with the divisions more than anything. So it is extremely rare. It's not zero, but it's pretty close to zero that we're doing the entire first drafting ourselves without partnering with the divisions. Instead, we're selecting cases to partner with. So we've come up with a broad set of criteria that we use for which cases to pick and when to pick them. So first, we do everything in SCOTUS. Civil or criminal, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what the issue is. We do everything in SCOTUS. We do most of the civil cases in the Third Circuit. If it's a civil case in the Third Circuit, by and large, we're involved. There's a few exceptions, but basically we're involved. And that's sort of like, part of that has to do with the fact we've got a federal constitutional background in the shop. That's more unusual for state AGs because until the past couple of years, that wasn't as common in state AGs offices to have this volume of federal litigation, and now it's ubiquitous. So we do a lot of the federal litigation. We actually do some dispositive motions in D&J as well, motions to dismiss, preliminary injunction opposition, summary judgment. But those we really only do in cases that are like, we know at the Third Circuit, they're going to be really hard and there can't lose cases for the state. So you get involved right at the outset. And then on the New Jersey Supreme Court, we do a fair bit of a mix of civil and criminal cases. So our heartland docket is New Jersey Supreme Court and Third Circuit, with a couple of subspecialties we'll do at any level. Challenges to directives by the Attorney General. I know who hired me. Challenges to executive orders from the governor. I know who the head of our administration is. And then some of the most important statutes, our Second Amendment cases, some of those others end up being real heartland. But there's no sort of like specific issue, and we don't just do like the hottest. It tends to approximate some of the most cutting edge or sexy issues that the department's dealing with, but not exclusively. It's sort of both over and under inclusive of that. But those are the rough touchstones we use. And it makes it really fun. I mean, partnering with the divisions means we get to do a whole lot more, including our fellows and our paralegal. We're 9 people as a team, and we're carrying between 100 and 200 cases overall. And to be clear, they're not all active at once. That's sort of like our overall load of cases that we're carrying. And so that means you got to partner with teams. You got to do work across division, civil and criminal. So that's how we end up picking and doing our cases. Jeremy,
can you just real briefly touch on how you do amicus work as well?
Oh, sure. So there's 2 different ways to get involved as in amicus work. One is in the SG's office, and the other is in some of our affirmative sections in the honors program that are the most repeat players on amicus work. So that's especially the environmental space, the consumer protection space, and the civil rights, not exclusively, but there's just a lot of amicus work there. And effectively, there's 2 kinds of ways to do amicus work with a bunch of states all at once, where you divvy up who's leading them and then running amicus briefs ourselves. So we actually have a process for running briefs ourselves, where we're actually monitoring cases in D&J and the Third Circuit to try to figure out ones that are of particular interest to us. And then if we're taking a leadership role on an amicus brief in a court of appeals, our office is definitely involved either in drafting or collaborating with the divisions. So we're monitoring cases. There's a case at the Third Circuit right now involving like buffer zones around reproductive health care clinics that I suspect is going to be an interesting issue for a lot of people. We recently filed an amicus brief in an environmental case where one of our towns, Hoboken, had filed lawsuits relating to climate change. And the question was whether that lawsuit belongs in federal or state court. And we thought it was important to hear from the state on its understanding of federal versus state court power. Other times we're doing immigration cases. We are the case doing DACA in the Fifth Circuit right now, a case that probably inevitably will go to SCOTUS. And so we have a really fun set of opportunities to do that kind of cutting edge federal amicus work too. And we share that with states. We collaborate with states. We're on 10 million emails all the time with other states, figuring out who will divvy up what. But then when we lead, our office is very involved.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. All right, Donald, you got the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting us to this event. So like I said, I'm Donald Irons. I believe Eve prematurely introduced me. So hi, everyone. My question is directed at Sam. Sam, one of the things I've learned as like a law student is my knowledge of the law is, to put distinctly, not much most of the time. Sometimes you realize you show your wisdom by showing your ignorance to a certain extent. So point is, I'm sure at your time with the Attorney General office, you've encountered maybe a difficult issue or something you don't really have a clear answer on, or maybe like a motion you didn't know exactly how to work. So how helpful has the office been when you've encountered those difficult situations?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm learning constantly. No two cases of mine are the same, or issue in the case, or fact pattern, of course. I should have mentioned that I'm not sure if all of the honors attorneys do, but there is also what is colloquially called the baby prosecutors course. So that was another kind of training that I went through when I started that just covers, the basics of a criminal prosecution. But within the office, there's just so many resources. Sometimes the challenge is just finding them, because we have a huge folder of resources, form, motions, things that people have done before, because no one wants anyone to be reinventing the wheel. So I've just found that I can ask anyone anything, it feels like, most of the time. And there's so much of an open door policy within at least OPIA. And I would guess that's true, across the AG's office. We all want each of us to be successful, so if I'm having a hard time, then that means our office is having a hard time. So I've just found that if ever I come up against a problem or a question or something I don't understand, it's never been difficult to find, someone to help answer my questions, or someone who's already done this thing before. Oftentimes, especially my colleagues come from county prosecutors' offices. So, and they have just done like tons of, have tons of experience in the New Jersey criminal practice. I would say I'm learning a lot, and I often try to help myself get as far as I can in a problem. I think that's how I learn best. But if ever and when I need to lean on other people and ask for help, I feel very much encouraged to do so.
Thank you, Sam. All right, Anthony, you have the pleasure of closing it out for us, question-wise at least.
I figured as much. I just wanted to echo and thank you guys for this. It's been great to hear everyone, speak. It's amazing you took the time out of your days. I know you guys have busy days to kind of be here, so that's great. I wrote my question down because I was actually just really interested. I wanted to ask it before closing, but I know that you mentioned there was Anthony Giramonti. I'm a 3L at New York Law School. I'm born and raised in Hudson County, and I currently live there. So New Jersey has my heart. Don't let New York fool you. So the reproductive health rights subject matter, I found that was particularly interesting. I mean, was this like a subject matter that has always been around in the Attorney General's office, or was it just something that was recent because of Dobbs, or was kind of pushed to the forefront because of Dobbs, and like what the work entails?
Oh, it's recent because of Dobbs. So it just shows how, like I said, cutting edge we are. Because, but even before the Supreme Court issued its decision in Dobbs, the New Jersey legislature passed a statute codifying the right to abortion care, and that law was signed into force by Governor Murphy. And shortly after Dobbs, we also saw other legislation passed because we anticipate that there will be not just New Jerseyans seeking abortion care, but also people outside of New Jersey coming here to seek abortion care. And so there's companion legislation basically dealing with banning states who want to criminalize those who come to New Jersey. So there's basically anti-extradition and limitations on cooperation in investigations looking to criminalize those seeking to come to New Jersey or assist those in New Jersey seeking abortion care. So we thought, because this is an essential part of the priorities of our office, and we've stood up a reproductive rights strike force that is composed of attorneys, not just Division of Law, but also Division of Criminal Justice. And also we've partnered with our federal counterparts, the U.S. Attorney's Office. We thought this was just an incredible opportunity to offer honors program fellow to just dive in and really get into the complex issues, because I mean, it's pretty mind-boggling how many different issues are implicated, whether it be data privacy of both the patients and the providers and the medical records, many of which are electronic, not just, the criminal issues, safeguarding the abortion care facilities themselves, dealing with issues of, like I said, those seeking to come here, those interfering with the rights of those seeking to come here to get abortion care. And so we really have taken a holistic approach. And so Honors Fellow will really have an incredible opportunity to assist the teams working on these matters, and we're really doing it from a very interdisciplinary approach. So it's an exciting opportunity. It's timely, it's incredibly important, and I hope that there will be strong interest in that subject area.
Thank you, Shirley, and thank you, Anthony. So that brings us to time. I appreciate everyone joining us for the last hour to learn about the honors program, and we'll pass it over to E.G. Placken to wrap us up.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Shirley, Jeremy, and Sam for being here tonight. Sam's the star of the show, by the way, so thank you for doing this. Really, thank you to all of you for your interest. I joke that sometimes I feel a little bit like a college football coach because recruiting is something I spend so much time on. But there's a reason for that. It's because we can't do the work that we do here without, frankly, the best and brightest and most committed folks like yourselves coming and working here. And I mean it when I say that I think this is the best place in the country to work. I grew up here and came back to New Jersey because I wanted to work for the state. And I'm really, every morning, I'm grateful that I did that, because what we're able to do here and the impact we're able to have is really extraordinary. And the team of people that you heard today and the teams of people that they get to work with and lead every single day, wake up trying to do great work on behalf of the residents of the state. And frankly, in many instances, great work on behalf of the residents of this country, as Jeremy and others have touched on some of the nationally leading cases that we've had. And you also got to see, as an example in the last question, of how we can be nimble and quick and change on a dime in a way that many other government agencies are not able to do, so that we can be on the cutting edge in responding to new and emerging threats. You're going to apply for assuming you do apply for one or several of the 12 issue area priorities, but these priorities change in response to new challenges. And some of the priorities that are on this list didn't even exist the offices within the division or the department didn't even exist just a couple of years ago. In some cases, just a couple of months ago. So we are constantly looking to do everything we can to protect the residents of the state and protect the state's interests. And I would just close by saying, I hope you do it here, but I really hope you all consider pursuing a career in public service, at least for some portion of your career. I've spent the bulk of my career in public service. I'm joined on this call with people who have spent virtually all, in some cases, all of their careers in public service. And I think I speak for all of them when I say these are the most rewarding jobs you could ever have. They're also the jobs that'll give you, I believe, the best experience that'll allow you to go on and do tremendous things in your career, whether that be here in New Jersey or elsewhere. But public service really is a calling, and I think it's a calling that every lawyer should pursue at some point in their career because of the impact that you can have as an attorney in one of these roles. There's no other place to do it quite this and have quite this impact. So I encourage you to apply. You have the information. Please, if you have any questions, reach out to us. Like I said earlier, I hope I get the chance to work with you, and I look forward to seeing your applications and hopefully meeting you very soon. Thanks for joining.